In 1982, new rally rules demanded just 200 cars, enough for factories to unleash monsters cleverly disguised as humble hatchbacks. Within seasons, 2 French runabouts, 1 mid-engine, 1 all-wheel drive, were leaving Ferraris behind on ice and gravel. The forgotten story is not about power, but how these loophole legends cracked the code of performance and what that audacity would ultimately cost. Group B's secret weapon was not raw power. It was a rulebook barely thicker than a postcard. FISA set the threshold at just 200 production cars. That number was low enough to let manufacturers skip mass production and instead build a handful of road-legal machines that barely resembled their showroom cousins. These were not everyday hatchbacks. They were purpose-built prototypes with license plates. The process was simple on paper. Submit documentation, line up the required cars for inspection, and collect the homologation stamp. But the real magic came with the evolution clause. Once the base model was approved, teams could create batches of 20 evolution cars packed with major upgrades, new engines, wider tracks, and radical aero. Each batch kept the car legal while pushing the design further from its humble origins. This loophole opened the door for engineers to chase performance without worrying about sales numbers or everyday usability. The result was rally cars that looked vaguely familiar but hid cutting-edge technology under the skin. Horsepower numbers didn't just creep up, they doubled in a handful of seasons. Early Group B cars started around 250 or 300 horsepower, but soon engineers were chasing 400, even 500, with some cars rumored to top 600 on qualifying boost. The low homologation bar and a nearly blank slate for design meant nothing was off limits. Composite bodywork, huge turbos, and radical layouts all became fair game. Suddenly, the humble hatchback became a canvas for prototype thinking. Engineers used fiberglass and Kevlar to strip out weight, then stuffed turbocharged engines behind the seats, or built all-wheel drive systems that could claw for grip on any surface. The term homologation special took on new meaning. These were racing cars in disguise, sold just enough to satisfy paperwork, then unleashed with constant upgrades through evolution batches. In this arms race, French teams saw a window to outthink, not outspend, the giants. The stage was set for small cars to punch far above their weight. Renault's answer to Group B wasn't brute force. It was a radical rethink of the everyday. The Renault 5 Turbo started life as a city runabout, but engineers at Renault Sport stripped it down and rebuilt it for the stopwatch. The engine, a 1.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, was moved behind the front seats, driving the rear wheels through a 5-speed gearbox. This shift transformed the car's balance, putting weight over the driven wheels and making it agile on tight, unpredictable roads. Early road cars made about 160 horsepower and weighed just under a metric ton. But the real fireworks came with the Maxi Turbo. For tarmac events like the Tour de Corse, the Maxi packed up to 350 horsepower, a wider track, aggressive aero, and even less weight. The short wheelbase and mid-engine layout let drivers like Jean Ragnati throw the car into hairpins, using the throttle to pivot the rear end. On smooth asphalt, the Renault could outdance anything, trading straight-line speed for instant response and cornering grip. It wasn't a refined machine. Boost hit hard and the car demanded respect, but in the right hands, it was a precision tool that could embarrass the giants. Peugeot's 205 Turbo 16 was engineered for domination, not drama. Underneath its familiar shell lay a tubular space frame, purpose-built for strength and serviceability. The mid-mounted, turbocharged 1.8-liter 4-cylinder engine sent power to all 4 wheels through a drivetrain designed for rapid changes. Gearboxes could be swapped in minutes during service halts, keeping the car in the fight no matter how rough the stages. Early road-going versions delivered about 200 horsepower, but the rally cars pushed far beyond that. Evolution 1 models produced around 350 horsepower, while the Evolution 2 cars broke the 450 mark, with some works engines rumored to approach 500 or more. Despite this, weight stayed close to 960 kilograms, keeping the car nimble and responsive. The 205 T16's all-wheel drive and carefully managed power bands allowed it to launch out of corners and maintain traction on surfaces that left rivals spinning. In 1985 and 1986, Peugeot's systems approach paid off with back-to-back World Rally Championship titles. The same formula adapted for the desert as the 205 T16 Grand Raid won the Paris-Dakar Rally in both 1987 and 1988, proving that Peugeot's methodical engineering could conquer anything from alpine hairpins to Saharan dunes. On paper, supercars like the Porsche 911 Turbo and Ferrari 308 boasted more power and faster top speeds, but rally stages are not measured in straight lines. The Peugeot 205 T16 all-wheel drive hurled it out of slippery corners where rear-driven exotics struggled for traction. Both the 205 and the Renault T5 Turbo weighed hundreds of kilograms less than their rivals, so their power-to-weight ratios turned every hairpin into an advantage. Short gearing and turbo torque delivered instant thrust between 30 and 90 miles per hour, the exact speeds that matter on real roads. In magazine tests, the Peugeot 205 T16 0-60 time of about 6 seconds matched Ferrari's. On gravel, it was even quicker, leaving supercars behind where it counted most. On March 9, 1986, a Ford RS200 crashed into the crowd at the Rally de Portugal, killing 3 spectators and injuring more than 30. Less than 2 months later, on May 2, 1986, Henri Toivonen and Sergio Cresto died when their Lancia Delta S4 plunged off a Corsican cliff. In the aftermath, FISA banned Group B for 1987, ending the era overnight. Today, supercar badges still chase headlines, but real-world speed remains a matter of ingenuity, not price. The lesson endures. Clever engineering can still rewrite the pecking order. Thanks for watching.